You're listening to Healthy House Calls with Angel, and today I'm talking about moving from trauma to triumph with nature therapy with my very special guest, Norris Atkins. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the show. Hello, welcome to Healthy House Calls with Angel. I am your host, Angel Shannon, giving you tips, tools, and holistic strategies to live a healthier life by intentional design. Join me as we explore the landscape of lifestyle medicine, offering practical tips that help you eat, sleep, move, and live better, and help you become fit and functional for life. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the show. Well, hello. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Healthy House Calls with Angel. I am your host, Angel Shannon, founder and executive director of SCBWI Health and the SCBWI Institute, where we put mindfulness and compassion in action to help you live longer and live better. If you are new to this podcast and new to the world of SCBWI Health and the SCBWI Institute, here's what I want you to know. I want you to know that everything we do at SCBWI Health is designed to help you change your life, not just your symptoms. We're here to give you the tips, tools, and strategies that you need to live longer and live better, to help you build a better brain to design the life you truly deserve. That's what we're all about here. So I'm so pleased and excited and so deeply grateful for you if you are a new listener, and to my audience of listeners, my dedicated audience of listeners, thank you so much for returning for another exciting episode. Today, I've got something very good in store for you. Today's episode is moving from trauma to triumph, and I've invited someone very special on to the podcast today to talk about one of the tools that I have used throughout my 33 years of clinical practice, and that is nature therapy. I'm talking today to Norris Atkins, who is a fierce advocate of nature therapy and nature immersion. We're talking about his journey to becoming a nature enthusiast and educator, and we're just talking about the importance of outdoor activities for mental health and community building. And I'll tell you what, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with Norris. And I can't think of a more important time than right now to get started with having a solid understanding of nature, its therapeutic benefits, and a real solid tool for our own mental health management. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation that I had with Norris, and sit back and relax, enjoy the show, and I'll see you on the other side. I'm honored and I am so excited to welcome my guest, Norris, the Fashionfly Hiker Atkins, Norris Atkins. I wanted to share a little background before I share his bio. I believe everything happens for a reason at a divine and appointed time. I was scrolling through my Instagram feed and I stumbled on Norris's page. And I thought, gee, this is interesting. Someone who loves the outdoors with a passion that I know I have, and many of the people I am connected to have, and you, my listeners, have as well. And not just one post, it was post after post of his deep passion and love for the outdoors. So let me share Norris's bio with you. And Norris, thank you so much for agreeing to join me on the podcast today. Norris is an encourager, an educator, and nature enthusiast. Norris is the founder and CEO of Norris Explores Outdoors, NEO, an Austin, Texas-based company where he provides a safe platform for Black individuals to reclaim their ancestral connection with nature. This connection not only enhances their physical health and mental health and well-being, but also fosters a sense of belonging and empowerment. This gets even better, folks. Norris's passion for the outdoors was nurtured during his time as a member of the Boy Scouts. Since 2015, he has dedicated himself to increasing outdoor visibility within Black communities. In 2024, Norris launched Norris Explores Outdoors, which is a hashtag, by the way, Norris Explores Outdoors. It is a digital movement that collaborates with influencers to create a diverse and inclusive outdoors for Black individuals. Norris is actively involved in Outdoor Afro Austin, which is a nonprofit organization that reconnects Black communities with nature. Norris has been featured in the IG Live Chat Black in National Parks project and mentioned in the Texas Highways magazine. He's been recognized through the Outdoor Afro Joyful Photo Award, and additionally, he has received the SCBWI Austin annual Carmen On-the-Verge Conference Scholarship for his pre-published picture book, My Hike with Daddy, A Story of Black Joy in Nature. Norris is a tour guide volunteer and advocate of the We Need Diverse Books movement through Storytime at Austin Central Library. He leads guided interpretive hikes at Enchanted Rock State Natural Area, visits Texas state and national parks, embarks on road trips to visit civil rights sites, and engages in bat watching. And he believes that nature is an integral part of his ancestral identity. Norris lives in the Peace Park area, deep in the heart of downtown Austin. Once again, Norris, thank you so much for your willingness to join us on the podcast today.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Shannon.
You're very welcome. So let me say this. Let's start with the genesis of, you mentioned in your bio that this started in Boy Scouts, or at least Boy Scouts was the seed for this. Tell us a little bit about that. Take us back to that time in your life where something kicked off and said, gosh, nature, outdoors, hiking. Give us a little bit of background.
Well, for me, it was a situation where there was a lot of trauma going on in the ecosystem in terms of my nuclear family. And so I was like, okay, there's got to be a way. So I actually went to my mom, and so she said, well, son, you may want to consider being a Boy Scout. I was like, oh, okay, I think that's a really, really good idea. And throughout that process, we were involved in recreational activities, which it was kind of like mentoring with camping, fishing, knotting, and stuff like that. And in so doing, turns out it ended up being like a pharmacy for me. It was a place that I could go and be my full true self. And so that's kind of the genesis and kind of the beginning of how it started. And throughout that process, then it became a pivot point for birding. I started, built my first chicken coop at probably 7, 8 years old with the help of a friend. And we kind of did that. And so kind of get into that, and which kind of started my love of the library, because I started collecting books that were similar in that particular genre. Now, clearly, I didn't know, we were not using the word birding at the time.
Right.
But theoretically at the time, I was a birder. So I started doing that, and then it kind of started from there. And so in that also gave me a sense of community, where I can have that sense of like-mindedness, that when people were doing things like me, and these were people that looked like me as well. So that was important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's wonderful that your mom nurtured that in you and saw that love and potential for scouting to have such a meaningful place in your life, and we never know as children, and even with the children that we work with or mentor, or nieces, nephews, we just never know that one little seed that is going to germinate in them and then take root and become something bigger and be so prominent in their lives. So kudos to your mom for recognizing that and supporting that. And I'm curious, have you maintained relationship with the scouting organization, or are you still involved in that, or do you still maintain friendships with those who were fellow scouts?
Yeah, I continue to nurture. We did like a climbing activity last year, so that gave me an opportunity to get some engagement. The person, he's actually a Boy Scout leader,
Mhm.
so they gave me some engagement, also some volunteer opportunities. particularly dealing with people who look like me. That's my focal point. And so he was very, very helpful. And so we still maintain in contact. In fact, I need to get with him this year to kind of see what we're going to do. But I also want to give my mom a lot of credit too, because she was an avid angler. Now, again, this is all language that I could use. That was an opportunity also for a bonding point for us. And so she taught me that skill, not just a skill, but as also a mean of necessity too, that we would go out, we would catch the fish, we would come home, body had a responsibility, kind of like, okay, if you don't clean the fish, you don't eat the fish type of deal. So
Right.
that was kind of like it was. So I'm so grateful for her for that, because that was our therapy. Also, it was abundant opportunity. So to be able to do that. So yeah, I still can keep those connections, because those are kind of like the building blocks. I know in a lot of your platforms, you talk about building a better brain and those type of things. So that was kind of like I was building my ecosystem, like building that community. And some of those connections are instrumental for a lifetime. And it kind of keeps it's a sense of groundedness. So yeah, I still continue to maintain those relationships, because it's one thing to receive it, but I'm also big about giving it back. I'm very
Yes.
big on paying it forward, because I remember that Boy Scout mentor who, oh, I didn't even know how to bait a hook, and he taught me how to bait a hook. So I was like, you know what? Which is the thrust of my whole business, is paying it forward. So I still maintain those relationships. And anytime I see anything about a scouts, it brings back fond memories that pivot back to that point of my life.
Very nice. For those who don't know, and I love that you use, ter- you know, accurate terminology. Explain to us what an angler actually is. What does that mean?
It's just a fancy word of saying that someone who enjoys fishing.
Okay.
And you have the good news is that we live in a world where people, because at that time representation was not a buzzword that it is now,
Right.
or a verb. It's not something that people typically do.
Mhm.
And so I go to IG or different pages, and I see Black women who fish, or
Mhm.
Black women anglers, or
Mhm.
Black anglers. We have that here. So that's technically what it is. It's just someone who enjoys fishing as a means of recreation, also as a means of necessity.
Mm.
Because I have friends who are Black Jamaicans, and they grew up on an island, and fishing was a necessity for them. So they could go out and catch fish. And so that's kind of how, like, my mom was telling me, yes, we can have fun. We can do catch and release. We can also go eat these fish,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
it was a very indigent family. So we had financial, challenges. So that was a means, but she also taught me a life skill. So just a fancy word, someone who enjoys fishing.
I love that. Um, I will say one of my fondest memories and one of my clearest memories, clear in the sense that when I close my eyes, I literally am in the very place where this happened, is with my grandfather deep in the heart of rural Georgia, outside of a little town called named Hawkinsville. And my
Okay,
grandfather taught me how to fish, and I'll never forget it.
excellent.
If I close my eyes, I can see myself standing right there by that creek, and showed me the hook and taught me how to put the cricket on the end of the hook, how
Excellent.
to, throw the line out and all. And this is not fancy equipment. We're talking about, rods that he made himself out of bamboo.
Mhm,
We're talking about
mhm,
the twine or the wire and the hook. Very basic, very, very
mhm.
basic. And those are not only some of my fondest memories of the pleasurable, as you said, the enjoyment of it, but also the necessity of it. We were eating what was caught. This was
Absolutely.
deep in the heart of rural Georgia. So it was a matter of sustenance and survival. And this little town that they lived in was quite a ways from the Piggly Wiggly or the food store, that was the name of it, Piggly Wiggly.
Mhm.
And so, no one was running to the food store every day or even every other day. This was an activity done for sustenance and survival, and those lessons, you never ever lose them in life. They frame a lot of your perspective in life, they frame how you show up in the world, I believe.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Hmm.
Absolutely. And I think, in hindsight, looking back, it's also a sense of mental health.
Yes.
It's managing your mental health.
Mhm.
It's getting in that safe space. Your whole focus is just being. It's a sense of what they call being in a moment, having a sense of belongingness, and it's just you, the fish, and you're not thinking about all of the issues and challenges that you have. And so that's why I enjoy it. That gives me such a sense of before we were talking about then, I can characterize it now, a sense of black boy joy.
Yes.
And that was just again that centeredness, the emotional, the physical, the social element, but we could connect it with her. And you're absolutely right that you never know what that's going to do later. And that starting there is what they call a through line. That's where my through line begins, with the nature and the connectedness, and then spearing off, connecting to other dots and other recreational activities. And
Exactly.
for those that don't know, the Texas Parks and Wildlife, or depending on where you are, a lot of these state parks, because for me it was an issue of it was more economic, but we were pretty creative. I mean, my mom taught me how to go out and get a branch on a tree or something like that, create your own line. We would create our own fishing poles.
Hmm.
We had that sense of creativity. So learn how to do that, and it was very inexpensive. But now, for those who maybe have no challenge, which is ultimately what I want to do, I'm going to do it through Latino Outdoors, through the Texan Parks and Wildlife, where they supply everything
Hmm.
and you just kind of show up. So you don't have to issue, well, okay, how do I bait my hook? Or I don't have enough money for this. I don't have enough money. So they don't have the challenge that I had growing up. But that's okay because it taught me a sense of ingenuity and creativity.
Yes. Yes. So many gems in that. And I want to pick that apart because many times, and you mentioned my work in mental health and my true dedication to the skill sets necessary to build a better brain. Many times there's that part of our brain that leans toward negativity bias. I don't have, I can't, I don't know where, I don't have access. Is it safe? All these kinds of things. I cannot say enough about state parks, local state parks that are either free or have a nominal entry fee, that the funds are used to maintain this space as a safe and clean space to enjoy nature and the great outdoors. And I will say to people, no matter what state you are in, easily accessible, whether on Google or Bing or whatever search engine that you use, start with, your local parks and recreations and state parks. It is a wonderful place to get started. And I believe that we meet people on the path. Lots of times we'll say, I don't know anyone or I don't have anyone to go with. Well, you're going to meet the people who are doing the things that you want to do, doing the things that you want to do. So they are already doing those things. So if you're saying to yourself, I don't have anyone, you will find that person or those persons doing the thing. You have to go to where those people are. You're not going to
Absolutely.
find nature lovers sitting in the bar at midnight. More
Absolutely.
times than
That is
10,
absolutely
nature
right.
lovers are going to be out enjoying nature. And
Right.
so, as you said, that is a wonderful place to get started. And also, resist the urge to lean toward the things that you don't know. Lean into the knowing that this is a lot simpler than you may think, and you will learn along the way how to. If it's fishing, you will learn people. One thing I love about nature enthusiasts, plant people, as we call them, gardeners. We love to teach. We love to share. We
Mhm.
love to pay that knowledge forward and push that knowledge forward. So, for any of my listeners, if you're thinking, gosh, this sounds good. I've always had this on my list of things to do. Hey, push it up top of your list now. Now's the time, now's the time to say, let me get started with this and find that community. And to your point, Norris, about mental health, can you speak to the ways in which this builds community for yourself personally, or maybe observations, anecdotals, and specifically what I really love, two organizations that I really love to support, Outdoor Afro as well as Girl Trek, I believe it is. Girl Trek is a nationwide organization that gets Black women out on you know the trail, so to speak, whether it's a
Mhm.
walking trail or even a trail at the local high school to walk around the track together. Speak to that community aspect, why you feel that's important, and maybe what you've experienced or what your or participants in your activities, what they've shared.
I think it's very important. We live in a culture that's uncomfortable. So you have to make yourself uncomfortable. I personally, a lot of my friends, they never believe me because when they see me, I'm energetic, I'm smiling, I'm active, I'm just that type of person. But what they don't know, there has to be an intentionality. It's been said that every journey starts with a single step. So make it okay to be uncomfortable. I meet, for example, with other groups because and I'm okay with someone who doesn't look like me because you're probably going to know something I don't know, and I'm okay with that. And so I think you have to have that level of intentionality where I'm going to go and meet up with this group and this group and just the different people with different backgrounds, different skill sets, different things. For example, I want to learn how to fly fish. Well, I do meet up with Outdoor Afro, but that's not something a recreation they offer. So I'm going to partner, for example, with Latino Outdoors.
Mhm.
And so they offer fly fishing. That's something I want to do because ultimately I want to go back to Yellowstone National Park and do some fly fishing because I saw some people doing it. It's like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. So I want to kind of step it up to the next level.
Mhm.
So I think we just have to, I would just encourage listeners to be comfortable with being uncomfortable
Mm. Mhm.
and don't settle to what, familiarity, what's familiar to you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so get outside of your comfort zone and be okay with that. And now we live in a world where everything everything is Googleable. You can
Yes.
IG, all those platforms and all of those people there. So I think it's staying connected. I went
Mhm.
to a Black History program, and it was just a bunch of Black cowboys, and they were dressed up in their cowboy attire, and
Mhm.
they were doing country dancing
Right.
and line dancing and things like that. And so it's just doing that community and connecting with people. And while I was there, I was able to meet with Black business owners, and
Mhm.
those business owners led to business connections
Yes.
and stuff like that. So I think that's what's important. So you can have a sense of solidarity. It was Dr. King who said we're caught up in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied
Mm.
in a single garment of destiny.
Mm.
And so what affects one directly affects us all indirectly. And
Mhm.
so you understand that you are connected. And that's important, that we're not meant to do life alone. And you realize that, oh, I'm going through this, oh, you're going through that. And
Mhm.
so I think that's the important, especially what we're doing right now, is building those communities, having those connections, and just being able to lean and depend on each other and how you live life in those in betweens.
So powerful and an important, and that quote, gosh, again, when we look at nature, we see how all living things coexist. Trees with shrubs, shrubs with weeds, weeds where grass, water meets the edge of the earth where there's more trees. We see birds, we see so many different life forms coexisting, one not negating the other's importance or relevance, and we can mimic that in our own lives. And as you said, See this as an opportunity to learn new things, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, step out of that comfort zone because
Absolutely.
that is the one thing that holds so many people back from even just life dreams. I always
Hmm.
wanted to, and then there's the but. And a lot of
Absolutely.
times that but is just rooted absolutely in fear, fear of the unknown,
Absolutely.
fear of not, being the same, or fear of not living up to what your own projections of other people's expectations are.
Hmm.
Even something like hiking, lots of times people don't think that they're in shape enough to enjoy hiking. Well, I'll do that once I lose a few pounds, or once my, you know, all of these other, things that are just really that mindset that's holding you back from enjoying the fullness of life. Nature is part of that fullness. So
Hmm.
I thank you for bringing that point, that to enjoy nature, and really get out here and be part of this experience, is going to take a little bit of stepping out of that comfort zone. It's funny you mentioned fly fishing, because I went for a hike yesterday and saw a gentleman, fly fishing, and I thought, gee, that
Hmm.
would be something really fun to do. And to the point that you made earlier about mindfulness and presence, when I started, and that's a new place that I hadn't visited before, he was standing there and I thought, gee, the water must be cold, or, such and such. I'm sure he has proper equipment on, or what have you.
Hmm.
An hour and a half later, this gentleman was still there. And I thought, gee, what peace this must be to be fully immersed in this activity, present only
Absolutely.
to this thing here, in
Hmm.
this spot, watching, waiting, the patience that is built through fishing.
That's
Fishing
it.
is one of those things that if you don't have patience, you will learn patience. If that is a skill you need to develop,
Mhm.
fishing will impart that in your life. You know,
Absolutely.
Curiosity, you mentioned, just, if you need to develop a greater sense of curiosity, hiking, I think, will, generate that. How can you not be curious when you're walking along and you see a branch or a leaf or a trail that leads off in another direction? These are all life skills. Would you agree to that, Norris? And from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I looked at your page, and we talked before, I was delighted to find out that you are a huge fan of Harriet Tubman, which I am.
Yes.
Uh, for her, I mean, I think too often we overlook the fact that she was a true nationalist. She was one of we call a one of our plant cesters. She was a stargazer. All those particular things, and I think we lose sight of the fact. I'm going to go back to do a tie into the beginning. Is that we as Black or BIPOC or however you wish to characterize yourself, we got to understand that being outdoorsy is a part of our DNA.
Yes.
It is not something that we're trying to do, and I think that that's what holds a lot of people back. Whether it's Harriet Tubman, whether it's Frederick Douglass, now they were forced to do it. Now we have an opportunity to do it, and many of our ancestors did it, and they were not paid to do it. But if you go back to the genealogy of Africa, they were already doing those things. So when they came over here, they planted the crops. They were already doing that, and to your point about fear, the acronym is said that fear is false evidence appearing real.
Mm.
You cannot allow those things to be your motivator. So I think I just got to read a book about black farming, and she was talking about the same thing I was talking about. Is just how do you live that life intrinsically?
Yes.
How do I live outside? That's my power position, and not acquiescing that power. And so, yeah, absolutely, absolutely agree. And we just have to stay connected, continue to encourage each other. That's why I enjoy encouraging so much.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
that and then with to your point about access as well. It's just I think it's been said we can do what we want to do, and I like your point about symptoms. I had a friend of mine that died recently, and I think it was largely because not dealing, being intentional about taking care of your body. Whether it's incrementally 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I didn't start out at the national parks at first. I started out, fishing, hiking, because we were so indigent, we couldn't afford a car. So
Mhm.
I was like the unlikely hiker.
Mhm.
All those things play into it in terms of what we're doing. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely agree with you. And now it's just we just have so many opportunities to take advantage of those natural spaces. And when I'm out, I don't think about anything other than me taking up space.
Yes.
And so now I'm glad to see there's a movement where people's like, okay, I need to reclaim my space.
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
just as much as my space, because for the way I look at it, my ancestors paid for it with their blood, sweat, and tears.
That's right.
So I have just much as right to be here as anybody else.
Exactly. Mhm. And I agree with you, and I say that wherever I find myself is where I'm supposed to be. So, and
Absolutely.
it's space where I belong. So to your point about belonging that we shared in your bio, belonging and empowerment, I happen to feel a great sense of connectedness in the Yucatan region of Mexico. And that started, oh, at least 25 years ago when I first visited Belize and the Yucatan region, and just this strong sense of connectedness. I could never really put my finger on it. And so, and Central America as well, Costa Rica, so all of these parts. And Mayan history is something that really, really is just fascinates me. Understanding, stargazing and understanding the relationship between soil, soul, and spirit, and ancient healing methods, and being outdoors, and that connected, and all of the things that you spoke about. Someone might say, well, why Mexico, or why? Well, there, all of this is in our DNA. All of this
Absolutely.
is in
Correct.
our DNA. I mean, we can go on, we can do all these ancestry.com things, and we can find out about lineage, but at the end of the day, we are human beings. A lot of this is just wired into our DNA. We
Mhm.
don't have to we don't have to overthink this. We can just go with it and see where it leads us. And where I found it has led me to is not only a deeper appreciation for life, but also a stronger sense of urgency at learning as much as I can, growing as much as I can as a human being, sharing experiences with others. I've learned how to cook different ways. Ancient Mayans would cook underground, right? Ties into a lot of the practices of Africans. If you go into,
Mhm.
Greece and Italy, you find, people baking bread in similar ways or cook using stoneware. So we're more alike than we are different as a species,
Absolutely.
number one. And then
Mhm.
number two, I just feel like it just deepens that reverence. It gives me a deep, deep reverence for every day that I am alive. Every day. A point you made about stargazing when I was in Bacalar, Mexico, leading a women's retreat back in September. There are parts of the world where the skies are clear just by sheer virtue of less smog and things like this. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience. Sometimes you look up at these stars and you just
Mhm.
think to yourself, I mean, you're just so deeply humbled.
Mhm.
You're just so deeply humbled, and you say to yourself, like, I am this small being in this grand scheme, but I'm also a big thing too, right? Like, no, there will
Absolutely. Yeah.
never be another angel. There will
Right.
never be another Norris. This is it.
Mhm.
And this is such a beautiful thing to know that I have the opportunity to be my full self, and
Yes.
and to be this thing that will never, ever,
Mhm.
ever be again. I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't want to go off too deep on this, but I
No,
just
no,
wonder if you have those
I think
experiences when you're out hiking or under the stars.
I think you're on point because the whole thing of uh, actually Big Ben. National Park is a park where I've been to, and it's been, and as well as Enchanted Rock, they're both recognized as an international dark sky park. So there's no natural pollutants, there's no smog, there's no fog. It's just clear, and you could see. And I've done like night hikes, which is pretty cool,
Wow.
where you
Tell
can
us
see a
more
lot of
about that, Norris. What does that
crit.
involve?
I mean, it's really good because again, goes back to what I alluded to earlier. It's me getting outside of my natural inclination to be introverted, but sometimes I can be an ambivert. So it's like, okay, fine, you're gonna get out of your comfort zone. Okay, I'm gonna sign myself up for a night hike. So I do a night hike, and I just meet up with complete strangers at night, which is absolutely fantastic. And you do a full moon hike, half moon hike. It's just all, so you just meet up with a smorgasbord of different people. And so you literally, Big Bend, you can walk, you see anacroid, you see scorpions that glow in the dark, stuff like that. And in the Milky Way. And that's another thing about what I hear you saying is awe, wonder. I enjoy nature. I was talking to a friend about uh, another trip, also to the Grand Canyon at night. The stars at the Grand Canyon are just awe inspiring. And so just kind of doing those things, but I'm giving nature the element of surprise that keeps me going.
Yes.
Uh, and I think once you have that immersive experience, which is something a professor many years kind of helped me with, that just being that in the moment is important. And so, kind of again, just staying uncomfortable and allowing myself to have that space. But also, it's another discipline that people are now talking about, which is the discipline of forest bathing,
Yes.
where
Yes.
you're just bathing yourself, you're washing off those toxins. You keeping that negativity outside. It helps you bathe those thoughts, those what psychologists call invasive thoughts, so that you don't have a porous mindset. You have an impervious mindset. And the impervious mindset is getting out in nature, make sure I'm staying healthy through the forest bathing process, whether it's during the day or during the night. So it's just a wonderful experience. It's definitely a journey and not a destination. So I think that's what keeps me healthy and keeps me happy and brings me joy.
Yes. For those listeners, again, I just feel like we are so fortunate to have Norris today talking with us about forest bathing. And all of this comes natural to you, Norris. This is your life and lifestyle. But for anyone who's never heard of the term forest bathing, of course, Googleable, it is. Can you just give us a brief description of what a forest bathing experience would be like? Like, just if you can paint a picture for us of what that would entail.
For me, it's something I'm gonna actually. Good question. It's a good pivot point tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going back to Enchanted Rock, which is where I would each year I try to take at least three people that have never been there. I pay for everything. I pay for the trip. I pay for the entry fee. I take you on a it's all inclusive. I take you chocolate tasting. I take them ice cream tasting. We do a trip down to Main Street because Fredericksburg, Enchanted Rock is about 15 miles outside north of Fredericksburg. So I, take them on a little tourist trip down Fredericksburg, and then I take them into forest bathing, and that's an opportunity. Is usually, let's say, for example, for me, usually when I do that, I'm having a stressful day, I'm having a stressful week. So instead of turning to drugs, instead of turning to cigarettes and things like that, which is fine if that's what people want to do,
Mhm.
that's kind of like my pharmacy. So in that setting where we're there, where I'm doing like an interpretive hike, I have certain points, overlooks, and we just sit there and we forest bathe.
That
So
is
we do kind of
so
like
beautiful.
we do like silence.
Mhm, mhm,
So it's part of the discipline.
mhm,
And so I also have them to bring a journal.
mhm, mhm.
So we do a few minutes of silence, and then I do lectio divino, where I do a few minutes of journaling.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I said, pick out an object, whatever that object is. Think about that object. Don't think about, Austin or wherever you're from. Don't even think about that. Just focus in that moment.
Mhm.
Allow your senses to come alive. Invite that in. Whatever is toxic, just leave that alone.
Mhm.
So those are kind of like the intentional disciplines that I get them involved in, because when you're in a city, when there's so much hustle and bustle and there's just so much noise,
Yes.
I think just kind of getting away from the noise, getting away from that, being intentional is like, wow, I've never really just focused on just being in the moment type of
Mhm.
deal. So those are kind of like doing. And honestly, I don't really use the word forest bathing, but that's really what they're doing. Because
Right.
I don't want to do sometimes so much this and so much that. I just want them to be an experience, but that's what it is. But you're washing your body of those toxins. You're washing
Mhm.
your body of the anxiety,
Mhm. Mhm.
the fear. That seems to be a big thing right now. You're kind of purging yourself of that. So those are kind of some of the things that I do every year. I've been doing it for quite some time now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Some of the disciplines that I engage the enthusiasts in.
This is absolutely so necessary. Disconnecting. And I love that you lead these experiences because as a clinician, and I've been, in healthcare over 30 years, I've experienced this on my retreats.
Mhm.
And I know you've experienced this because this is a common thing that people mention. A lot of things come up when we get quiet. A lot of things come up. A lot of emotions come up. A lot of, as you mentioned, purging, right? When we're purging anything from our bodies, from our minds,
Mhm.
things come up and they come
Mhm.
out, right? So tearfulness, crying, memories, um, sadness, joy, all kinds of things can come up during these experiences. They come up and they come out. And I love that
Absolutely.
you are leading these experiences because from my retreat experiences, I've directly witnessed this healing process, this purging process where emotions come up, thoughts come up, and to create that safe space to let individuals know I am here with you. As you said, this is an experience that you're already prepared for. You're intentional about where we're going, and you're there to hold that safe space for people. And I would really, really say, and I say this to listeners, Norris is the type of person, the person, please reach out to him. If this is something you want to experience, experiencing this in the safe cocoon of a person who is experienced with this, who does this, and is well fortified for what can come up for you is so absolutely important. It really is. Being out in nature is beautiful and it's fun and it's all these things. But again, as we both said, this is wired into our DNA. And in that DNA is a collective of experiences, histories, experiences that we've had that were, pleasurable and maybe not so pleasurable. There's a lot of memory. And I want to build this bridge, Norris. You are also a writer and a reader, but more so to the point of writing, having that journal there to memorialize this experience, to be able to put it to words. And we're not talking about writing the great American novel here. We're talking about just being able to capture these thoughts and memorialize them and capture this experience and perhaps come back to it. I am a longtime journaler. I have two, shelves full of nothing but my journals. People often ask, do you go back and read those entries? I say it's up to the individual if they feel, that they want to or can read those entries. But
Mhm.
being able to memorialize this experience somewhere on paper for yourself. And if you're
Mhm.
able to go back and see a year from now or 2 years from now how far you've come, you'd be so surprised. And that ties back into the very beginning when we said that one of Norris's intentions is to engender empowerment. I think this is just such an empowering thing to be able to do, to forest bathe, to be present in the moment. to be present to these feelings that can come up, be willing to memorialize them in some meaningful way, and know that this is medicine. This is medicine. This is just one of many forms of medicine and healing that is available to you, that is just so powerful. I just wanted to put that out there, Norris.
No, Angel, I think you're there, and I've been so fortunate with the reason why I'm so passionate about the whole Enchanted Rock thing is someone exposed it to me, as well as the pharmacy through Outdoor Afro. There are times we'll partner with a state park, and we'll have a park ranger with us, and she'll point out certain plant identification, or in terms of the flora and stuff like that. So it's just so helpful, and there's a quote that I live by every day. It's by Horace Mann, and he said, "Be ashamed to die until you made some major contribution to humanity."
Mm,
And I've just found that my way to do that is through these nature experiences, and because I owe so much a debt to my ancestors because they make so many tremendous sacrifices, so I think it's incumbent upon us to be able to do that as well, and that's why I'm so grateful for those type of groups. To your point, Angel, to know that you're not alone. Hey, I got your back. You got me. I got you. We are in this together. And I think more so as we look at the American landscape or just in the world in general, I think that so much people are looking for belongingness.
yes.
People need to hear, it's okay, even if it's a situation where you are connected to emotion and you're crying. It's just kind of like a situation. I mean, there are some situations where it's cathartic and people want to cry and stuff like that. And I want them to have that space to be able to do that. And they do. And it could be a point, it's like, hey, I don't have an answer for you,
That's right.
but I just want to let you know that I'm here for you.
That's right.
And and if Hollywood needs an actor to cry, I'm your man. I
That's right.
will cry on the drop of a dime. If I will cry on a commercial, my friend, boy, you cry so much. So, hey, I have no problem. I will cry. With real men cry. You have to
Yes.
be in touch with your emotions. And so I think the men that come and they see me, it's like, man, this guy's a crier. He's a guy. Absolutely. My mom was like that. I'm so grateful for her because she was okay, son. Hey, let it out. Let it
That's
happen.
right.
So,
That's
so
right.
you have to do that, and people just need to know it's okay to say I don't know.
That's right.
There have been some times on the excursions like I'm your brother's keeper, whatever that capacity may be, and I was saying that my godfather, he was a really good demonstration. I was going through something in grad school at one point and just overwhelmed emotionally. And he just sat beside me and he said, Godson, God bless his soul. Shout out to my godfather. He's in heaven right now. So
Mhm.
love you, man.
Oh,
And he would just sit next to me and I was just crying. And he just said, hey, I don't have any answers for you, but I just want to let you know that I'm here for you.
yeah.
And so I try to be an ambassador of that hope and of that joy and of that peace,
Mm-hmm.
and that non-anxious presence,
Mm-hmm.
as they call it. And I do my best to make sure that that's reciprocal and
Yes.
being with that person and say it's okay and it's going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's the best words. And then sometimes I never forget a principle my professor shared with me many years ago is that sometimes silence is golden.
Oh my goodness, yes. Sometimes silence is golden because sometimes that's the one thing people need most. They don't have that. Everywhere they are, there are words. There is words, there is noise, there is action, there is activity, there is even in silence, they are not experiencing silence because of all these intrusive thoughts.
Absolutely.
And
Hmm.
sometimes silence, no words, is exactly what people need. most.
And that's the whole thing of as we discussed, is the forest bathing or having that silence of the journaling thing. That's a good discipline to have. And it's especially in a digital world, technological world, we could get caught up into that. And one of the things I want to be that I'd be remiss if I didn't say is that I also have them write a letter to themselves, an empowering letter, and then in 2 weeks, you step away from it and mail it to yourself.
Yes.
And so they come back, oh my gosh, I want that place back. So now it's created an appetite of silence. And how do you sit in silence? To your point, in a world that's verbose, in a world that it's just talk, talk, talk. And so that's why that comes in. It's so important to do that. And to your point, it's just a lot of people don't know how to do that. But it's something that you had alluded to earlier, Angel, is just being able to be there, just sit in it and make it okay to do that. But that's a discipline. You talked about patience. That's a discipline. Because I remember the first time I was in and out 2 or 3 minutes, and then as I continue to do it, and it's kind of like you alluded to. Let's treat the body, not the symptom. That to me is where the thing is. And you don't have to wait till you get to a park out there. Start it in the morning. To me, when you wake up, don't be so quick to grab your phone and start scrolling. Start there. Sit in silence there. I enjoy dancing, but sometimes I practice before I get there. I'm gonna do this move. I'm gonna do that. So by the time I hit the dance floor, I'm gonna hit it like a 747 jet. I'm gonna be ready to go. It's because I've done the prep work, but that's just me. I'm silly like that.
Yes.
So my point is that start it there. Start 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Hey, I'm not gonna do my phone. I'm not gonna touch my phone for the first 30 minutes today. So be the change, as Gandhi said, that you hope to be, but start it there.
That's
and
right.
Then do it incrementally, do it daily. Next thing you know, it's like, And I think that's why a lot of people are getting into the practice of yoga and stuff like that.
Yes.
And some of the natural parks are starting to have yoga sessions as well.
Yes.
You can actually do a yoga session at a state park. You do a yoga session at a local park. You can do a yoga session by yourself. You can do a yoga session within a group. There's so many pop-up stuff now. So there are really no excuses, but the change that you seek, it starts with you, and it starts on a local level. Start there before you get there.
Exactly.
As they tell you before you go hiking, be prepared before you hit the hike.
Right. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that I want to share with you, and I know you know this, from one to another. Introverts, this is where we live. This is where we live. This is where we thrive. So if there are listeners out there who people don't understand your silence, they don't understand your need to, to come out of the discourse, come out of the noise. If you've been one of those, children who came into adulthood who was maybe teased or whatever the case may be for, being one who would drift off or, being a loner, as they would, all these labels and things like this, just know that your desire for stillness and solitude and silence is a strength. It is a solid strength in a world that is filled with a whole lot of noise. And so if, I would say to the introverts here who are listening, and to the extroverts who may even feel overwhelmed and are seeking solutions to the overwhelm, the medicine here that we're offering, once again, in this conversation today, is the medicine of silence, of solitude, of nature, of stillness, of mindfulness, of presence, of getting back to all those foundational things that are deep within your DNA, that are already pre-wired in you, that your brain is craving. And I want to, sort of tie our conversation up here. Norris and I are going to get back together again because first of all, we have so much in common, and second of all, we have so much to share and talk about. But what I want to say is this: you are building a more resilient brain. All of these things that we have talked about today are the strategies for building a stronger, wiser, healthier brain. And when I say healthy, I'm talking at the cellular level. I'm talking about building solid neural networks where you can think clearer, you can make wise decisions, you can focus, you can plan, you can execute, you can design, you can be creative. All of those things come off of a more empowered and healthier brain. We talk a lot about heart health, we talk about kidney health, we talk about all these other aspects of health, but none of those things are possible without a functioning brain. And so see this also as see it as a wellness practice, but also see this as a practice that will build longevity for you. We're talking about long life, the possibility of long life through a better brain, a brain that works for you, not against you, and that helps you build the kind of world that you want to live in. It, as Norris said, it starts with you. The life that you desire, that you dream of, really does start with you, and then it ripples out. Everything that you do for yourself, you do for another person. You do for the next 10 people down the line and for creation, really. I will say this: the earth will survive. The earth has been here for a very, very, very long time. The earth will survive. The question is, do we want to survive with it as a species? And this is the way that we survive as a species, no matter who you are, what you look like, where you live, what your ancestry is, what your, all of this. Survival will come through intentional practices that are rooted in wellness.
Precisely.
Period. Our ancestors knew that. They knew how to do that. They knew the urgency of that. And we're going to do that together. We are not going to do that from a space of, not being in community. That's not how it works. And we can only look to nature to understand that survival comes through community. And you have to decide what that community looks like and how you're going to create it. But you do have the ability to do that through these practices that we talked about today. Norris and I are going to get back together again. I would like, Norris, for you to wind us up and close us out with where people can find you and how they can stay in touch with you and what they can, how they can experience all that you have to offer in Austin and beyond as it pertains to forest bathing and hiking and immersive experiences. Take us home, Norris.
Well, the good news is, if I would say the climax, or would be the whole thing is to get you from trauma to triumph. And that's where I want to. That's my life's mission. That's why I feel that I'm here on the planet and building that universe. And so I would say prior to our discussion today, the best way to find me is going to be on my IG handle. For listeners who are going to go back and maybe listen to this, we said that's Norris, like Chuck. I have the name. I'm still working on the money part. And that is Atkins, like the diet, and then Explores. So Norris Explores Outdoors. And that's, again, on my IG handle platform. And then Threads, I listed pretty much all the things. I listed books. I listed groups that you can get connected with and stuff like that. So you understand that you're not alone, that we are in this together. And so that's going to be the best way to find me. I'm pretty active on Threads. So feel free to reach out to me. Anything that I can do. And if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, but I can point you to other directions. I think I've already alluded to Outdoor Afro Latino Outdoors. I mean, there's so many resources. So just feel free to
Yes.
check out those particular platforms. And if any way I can help you, I'd be more than happy to. It'd be my pleasure.
Fantastic. I'm going to include Norris's handle on Threads and Instagram in the show notes. Truly avail yourself to both platforms. Have a look and see. The beautiful thing about Instagram is you get to see some of the beautiful pictures that he shares and the stories behind that. Norris is a wealth of information about all things related to outdoor adventures and education. And if you are I'd like to plug this also. If you are a person who's looking to build partnerships, if you've got a product or a service that aligns with what Norris has spoken about today, that you'd like to talk about collaboration with him or partnerships or getting the word out about what you're doing, Norris is open to having conversations about that. We've spoken about that as well. So please do avail yourself to his platform on Instagram. Have a look in the show notes and also check out his, how he vibes over there on Threads. The beautiful thing about, Instagram and Threads is Instagram with the pictures is one thing. Threads, the other part is just the narrative of what people are about and how they're moving in their day-to-day lives. So be sure to check that out. Stay tuned for another exciting episode with Norris and I. We are thinking about coming to you live. This is a recording, but we are really going to have a conversation about a live presentation. And write down your questions right now. Get them going, because when we get on live together, that is going to be your opportunity to ask Norris to go deeper on any of the concepts that we've talked about today. So I'll be sure to post that as well. So just be sure that you're following me on Instagram as well at Angel V Shannon. Or if you're connected to me here on YouTube, just be sure that you are liking and subscribing to the channel, because that's where you'll find the announcement about Norris and I getting together. So just take a look at the show notes, get those resources for yourself, and stay tuned for just all of this and so much more. A really great conversation with Norris Atkins. Norris, thank you once again for taking the time out of your very busy day.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, it's all about othering and helping others. That's what it's all about. So it's a plum pleasing pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll talk again soon.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, what a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Norris Atkins, if you're listening, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation. I'll tell you, there were so many gems, so many pearls in this conversation. I had to go and get my own journal. I had to get my own journal and sit down and write out what I thought my takeaways were. I mean, it was just so much. And I'll tell you, nature is a healing balm. It always has been. It always will be for me. I don't know if people know this about me, but I actually prescribe nature for my patients. Yes, I do. I get out my prescription pad and I write down exactly how much time I want them to start spending in nature. And my patients take it seriously, because I really do know that empowerment comes from connecting with nature. I know that, the outdoor space is a healing space for all of us here on the planet. And it's not just about what we can take from nature and get from nature, but it's also about what we can give. I find that when we are giving, it just really gives us a sense of gratitude and a sense of connectedness. And it helps us remember that we are one with nature. Everything that we do to nature, we do to ourselves. So giving back to nature is also part of that healing therapeutic experience as well. So I hope that this episode leaves you feeling empowered. I hope that it lights a fire under you the way it did for me to get out and enjoy nature and start thinking about some outdoor activities that can create a sense of community for you and a sense of belonging and a sense of connectedness to others, because as Norris said, we have more in common as humans than we think. We really truly have more in common. We're more alike than we are different. And I think the sooner that we get hold of that and embody that and really live that, the better off we will all be and the better off we will all feel. We'll start building that beloved community that we all want to live in. We have to be the change that we want to see in the world, as the great Mahatma Gandhi once said. I hope this episode leaves you feeling that level of empowerment. Listeners, if you are not subscribed to my newsletter, my mailing list, healthyhousecallswithangel.com, please go to that website, healthyhousecallswithangel.com. If you're not already subscribed, please do get on the mailing list. It's where you're going to find out all about my upcoming events, those that are virtual as well as those that are in person. You'll learn about my food and wine tour that's happening in Greece, October 4th through the 12th. If you don't know about that food and wine tour, please do hop over to the website, sivahealthgroup.com. Click on food and wine tour. Special subscriber only savings happening this month, the month of March. Subscriber only savings. I'm able to extend special savings to my subscribers of my newsletter and those who are members of the SCBWI Circle. So if you're a member of the SCBWI Circle or you are a subscriber to Healthy House Calls with Angel, I'm going to be able to extend some special pricing to you. So get on the website, sivahealthgroup.com, click on the food and wine tour tab, and then schedule a one-on-one call with me where I'll be able to walk you through the entire itinerary and share with you what that special savings for subscriber only and for members only of the SCBWI Circle, what that savings will be. So that's another reason why you want to be a subscriber, and you most definitely want to be a member of the SCBWI Circle, thecbwicircle.com, member only community. Lots happening there, lots of workshops, classes, special challenges that we do from month to month, just lots of good things happening in that community. So I'm going to sign off and say thank you once again for being the best part of everything that I do here at SCBWI Health and the SCBWI community, the SCBWI Institute and the SCBWI Circle community. Thank you for being the best part of that work, truly. Make sure you sign up for the mailing list, healthyhousecallswithangel.com. And I will say to you, as I always say, be well, be good to yourself. Never, ever, ever, ever be afraid to be amazing. Take good care. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to Healthy House Calls with Angel. I hope today's episode leaves you feeling inspired, motivated, and empowered to live your best life by applying the practical tools of holistic lifestyle medicine to eat, sleep, move, and live better. Please don't forget to subscribe wherever you receive this podcast. Check in for show notes and share this podcast with friends. If you'd like even more tips in your inbox, subscribe to my newsletter, Healthy House Calls with Angel, by using the link in the show description. Until next time, be well and be good to yourself.